Shalom. So today we're going to look at the Hebrew letter Ma or Mem, which represents water, right? So we're going to deal with the water element. There are layers to this understanding, but we're not going to go into the depths of spirits and so forth, right? So we're just going to deal with the basic parts of it. So as we know, a lot of people believe that nature is God, right? No, I cannot say this is about people who do not believe in God, right? Because I remember even when I was an atheist, one of the reasons why I did not completely believe there was no God, because when I look at the sun, I know that work is beyond man, right? So I know there's no explanation man can give to explain how the sun works or what they do for the sun to be doing that. So even in my state of being an atheist, I understood there was a supreme being, right? Now, a lot of people who believe in God, they still don't come to the fullness of their belief system, right? So some of them are limited to nature. This is why now you see a lot of people who are into spirituality, they go sun gazing, they go harness energy from the moon, they go by the rivers and the waters to meditate, right? This is what they give their full attention to as God, right? So we find that a lot of us worship that which is created rather than He who created those things, right? So this is the book of Romans, chapter 1, and we're just going to start at 24. Wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who changed the truth of God into a lie, and worshipped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. So a lot of people worship nature instead of the one that created nature, right? Now, in Proverbs chapter 6, it says, let's go to Proverbs chapter 6, verse 6. It says, go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise. So what we're supposed to use nature for is to see a reflection of God, not to see God himself. So this is why we don't worship the water or create a water god out of the water. We do not look into the heavens at the constellations and create a god, right, with four-footed beasts and so forth, making patterns, right? We don't do that with the wind, the swift air that goes around. We don't create gods out of these things. Other nations do it, but we were not supposed to, because he gave us his wisdom, and his wisdom would do what? Convert our souls. So he says, observe nature. Why? For us to see a reflection of everything that he says, everything that is contained in his word, all the knowledge and understanding, right? So when you deal with other nations, what they do is make a god or many gods out of the water itself. For example, when you go back to the Garden of Eden, the land between the rivers, right? So you have Tigris here and you have Euphrates here, right? This region between, matter of fact, let me get it here. You have Tigris, you have Euphrates. So the land between these rivers would be Mesopotamia, right? Now over on this side, you have another river, a main river that extends all the way down, right, in Egypt. So you have the Nile River, right? And around here you'll have the Levant, right? So all these lands here would be referred to as the what? Fertile Crescent. We refer to this region as the Garden of Eden, right? No. Why is this land fertile? What usually happens at a certain time of the year to these lands? Let's go to the book of Joshua, chapter 3, and verse. Matter of fact, let's go to Genesis chapter 2. And start at verse 5. It says, "And every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew, for the Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. But there went up a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the earth." So guess what? Nature was taking care of everything already before men even came into picture, right? So the Most High had everything using what? His wisdom, manifesting whatever he wants to manifest in the earth. So yes, there was a mist. And also, let's go to the book of Joshua chapter 3. And we're going to read verse 15. It says, "And as they that bear the ark, and as they that bear the ark were come unto Jordan, and the feet of the priests that bear the ark were dipped into the brim of the water, for Jordan overfloweth all his banks all the time of harvest." So guess what? The same overflowing of the banks, it happened here, right? It happened in the city of the Adamites. But guess what? We knew differently. We did not worship the river nor the overflowing of the banks. These different people, what do? They created many gods out of these things, right? So one of the animals you naturally find among rivers, frogs. They'll make a god out of this. The Adamites, we did not do this. We did not worship these things, but rather we glorify the Most High in these things, right? For example, where we farm, right? Where me and my team, where we farm, we are between two hills. So we farm here in the valley. The river is right next to the farm, right? We farm on the hillside, and also on the top of the mountain. Right? No. The scripture talks about a tree planted by the river. What happens when you plant a tree next to the river? What happened with the roots? It's constantly being fed, right? Water. So this is why you see those trees in the valleys. They are really huge. They are full of life because they're constantly connected to the source. The water represents what? Life. So even though the earth is the source of life for the tree, the trees still need water to balance, right? And as we are dealing with the elements, you have earth, air, water, fire, and this is the main one we're dealing with for today, right? So it's constantly being fed. So it's the same way when you are connected to the word is that water. So you're constantly being fed. Your soul, your spirit is constantly being fed because you are connected directly to the source, right? Now, these people, when their banks overflow, what do? They create gods out of it. They worship it. They worship the river. They worship the water. They worship even the flooding of the banks. We did not do that, right? And it's the same today. If we are here in the valley at our farm, guess what? When the rivers overflow, we don't worship the water that flows over. So when you're dealing with Ma, Mem, guess what? With the Most High, everything has two sides. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus 33 verse 15. So look upon all the works of the Most High, and there are two and two, one against the other. So everything he creates in two, right? So when you're dealing with water, guess what? It can bring chaos / confusion. And over on the other side, it can bring order. So, depends on what side you're looking at this wisdom from. It can be either. So if you are still at dust of the ground, this water or this wisdom is going to be chaos and confusion for you. If you order and purpose, if you are at the state where you become a living soul, it's going to bring order and purpose into your life, right? So wisdom is two parts. So at a certain time of the year, the banks would be overflown, right? So a flood can be what? Can be confusing on one end. But guess what? It can do a lot more things, because when the water from the river goes over onto the river banks, what does it do to the soil? It makes it ready for you to do what? Do your planting. And this is why you see back in this area in the Garden of Eden, what was the main thing there? Agriculture. Because of these river banks. So a lot of people were raising animals there. A lot of people were doing their planting, fishing, and so forth. This is the beginning of all things. This region here, everything started here. So it's the same thing today. The land becomes moist. It has all the water. And now you can do what? You can go and plant. So you have that for at least 3 months. It's just like for us. When we're not down here, when we're farming on the hillside or on the mountain, the best time for us to plant is when? In the rain. So the dirt is a bit soft or moist. So we can just go and do our transplanting easily. We don't do that with the hard dirt. We plant in the rain. So it's the same down here. The Most High give the water and the soil is made ready. You can just go and plant your whatever you're planting. But we do not worship the water. And even people, a lot of people today who believe that nature is God, I am sure that a lot of them, in their common knowledge, common understanding, would not go and worship the water when they see the flooding of the riverbanks. they know, somewhere inside of them know how stupid they would look. So they would not do it. Like I said, some people use the sun and the moon, right? We use the moon, but not for worshiping or harnessing energy in that sense. When we store our roots, we use the moon to charge it, sometimes for 9 days, depending on what roots we are preparing, what medicines we are preparing. So we use the elements, but not to glorify the elements. We glorify the Most High who created the elements. So again, what side of wisdom are you standing on? Are you still at that low level at the dust of the ground, where everything is chaos and confusion? Are you in that state of a living soul where you rose above the ash and now you have order and purpose in your life? When you're dealing with this water, right? The flowing of water, right? This represents activity. So even the letter that comes after this, which is the na or the noon, represents a fish or activity. It's way more than just a fish, right? Now, what gives this motion here? We know it comes back down into spirit. Now, in their world, when they break it down, you do what? 2 atoms of hydrogen plus 1 atom of oxygen. You call that H2O. Right? So there's this constant motion, all these atoms here. These are the smallest forms of energy. Right? No. When you're dealing with the Most High, people think they can go around him. For example, famine. We know the history and how famine were back then, right? Now you have a set of people that were cursed so that the earth would not yield it, fruits unto them. So they live in their labs and so forth, right? Making foods abundantly. Now they think they can avoid the famine. You can't escape the hand of the Most High, no matter how much you produce, no matter what you have in storage, right? Now dealing with storage. This is just going back to the fact that the earth was created out of 22 letters. Now, when you deal with the Hebrew letter Ta, as you can see, this looks like a barrel, right? Where you store your grains and so forth, right? Now, when the time of famine comes, guess what? The Most High knows how to create whatever He wants to create out of these elements. So your entire storage, like in the winter, you have 3 months of winter. You would normally store your food to serve you until spring comes again. Right now, He has a way that He can destroy all your storage. So if He sent forth the spirit for famine, guess what? At His command, in the 22 letters, right? And it's the same thing for the water, because part of the famine is the drying up of the rivers. I remember, I think it was 2017, 2018, where we go for our farming, guess what? The river was completely dried. The spirit, he said he created spirit for vengeance. So you're crossing the river, we're walking through the river, we're walking on dry ground. So when that time of famine comes, you cannot escape it. And this is where faith comes in. We're going to see how many people lack this. We think we have this, right? He said to observe the birds. What do they do in time of hurricane? Do they go and store foods? No. We don't have faith as the birds.